Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night in our brand new studio in the Belisario Media Center. I'm Brooke Steach, joined by Logan Bourandas and Juan Mendez, and tonight we'll be analyzing how Penn State football has started out so far this season and what the future holds for the Nittany Lions. So guys, let's get started. Penn State is currently sitting 5-1, dropping their only game of the season so far to Iowa this past weekend. But the team managed to win 4 home games in a row at Beaver Stadium the past other 4 weekends before. But what are some major takeaways you guys noticed from the team so far?
Well, there's a lot of bright spots in this team, and I would say in those games, the main things are probably the defensive talent that there is, but also the offensive discipline. Now, that defensive talent definitely has to be highlighted, as they already have 8 interceptions in this season, 4 more than they had in the entire season last year, which is it's an up and down season that they had. So this team has a lot of talent on their back line, and they also allow way less points than they did last year. Right now, they average right around they're holding the offenses down to right below 14 points per game to compare to last year's below 28. So there's a lot of bright spots in that team.
I think for me right now, the biggest thing is Sean Clifford to Jahan Dotson duo becoming one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the country right now. We saw brief flashes of that last year when Jahan Dotson became the #1 wide receiver, obviously when KJ Hamler graduated and left for the NFL. We saw both sides kind of show what they're really capable of. Sean Clifford struggled with efficiency, and we saw, especially in that Ohio State game back in 2020, Jahan Dotson really had his breakout game, but now both these players really hitting their stride, focusing on efficiency, and Jahan Dotson, one of the best big play wide receivers in college football right now, and these two players have hit their stride and have started out with that 5-0 start.
Yeah, like you guys said, there's so much talent on Penn State's roster this year. But as I stated before, last Saturday's game against Iowa was definitely a heartbreaker, ending in a close game 23-20 due to many injuries on Penn State's roster, including quarterback Sean Clifford. But there's still a lot of time for these players to get healthy. But what impact do you think these injuries will have on the team the rest of the season?
Well, I think the big one was Sean Clifford leaving the game against Iowa. And we saw, especially with the replacement to Juan Roberson, really struggling to make completions. And even though he came into a tough spot, obviously on the road at Kinnick Stadium against Iowa, not the ideal time to get a good amount of playing time, but all he really had to do was just pitch and catch, make a simple pass. He finished, I think, 7 for 21 on his passes. But when you have receivers like Jahan Dotson, like Parker Washington, all you need to do is just throw 3 yards and get a completion and get a drive going. But Roberson couldn't even do that, and the Nittany Lions ended up losing that game. So we'll see whether or not Sean Clifford is going to be back with the team long term. Obviously, they have the bye week right now. They play Illinois in the next game, but we'll see whether or not, even if Sean Clifford does come back, he did make a post on Instagram that was kind of, you don't really know what to make of it right now. It could really mean anything. It could mean that he's coming back. It could mean that he's done, going to the NFL draft, something like that. I think we'll have to wait and see, but a lot of uncertainty right now at that quarterback position, especially if Sean Clifford is not back for this team in the Illinois game.
Absolutely. You cannot deny that he's the reason why Penn State did indeed lose that game, but Taquan Robertson has the opportunity to step up, and he has the weapons to do exactly so, as you mentioned. There's a lot of ways that they could really get him involved, and if he is the one that's going to start the game against Illinois, he has a lot of room there to show that he could actually start for this team, a home game as well, because he was thrown out there in that atmosphere that is really tough to play at. Now, moving on to a little bit of the defense injuries as well, apart from the offense there, even though Clifford is indeed the reason why this game was lost. You have to say that P.J. Mustipher, for example, who went down early in that game, he left, but Penn State was able to get 3 sacks after that happened. So there's a way to get them involved. Now, defensive injuries, it's a wound, but it's one that you can control to a certain point because it's an entire unit that you have the control over and play style and everything involved in there. So Penn State can definitely figure out a way to hold down their opponents and not let those injuries hurt them that much, and they definitely need that for games moving on.
Yeah, those injuries definitely weren't good, and I knew as soon as Clifford came out, I was a little nervous, but hopefully they have enough time to rest, as their next big test will be against Ohio State at the end of the month. Now, Ohio State is currently ranked now number 6, but what do you expect from the team for the rest of the season leading up to that game at the end of the month?
That is a huge, huge game, and as I mentioned before, Penn State has allowed less than 14 points per game. Ohio State is a team that scores almost 50 points per game. With that really just Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Olave 7 touchdowns already, Wilson with 6. It's a team with a lot of firepower, something that Penn State has not gone against so far this season, and that they definitely have to step up towards. meaning that their defense, their pass defense, which has to be highlighted, that has 8 interceptions, they have to step up. And I think that would be the biggest deal breaker for them to win this game. And they're the ones that Coach Franklin's probably going to tell, you guys have to step up. If you guys don't step up, we're going to lose this game.
Not so fast, Juan. I think the biggest point of emphasis here has to be on the front seven for this game. And looking at CJ Stroud, the quarterback for Ohio State, he's been able to stay on his feet for most of the season. He hasn't been sacked in either of his last 2 games against Rutgers or Maryland, so he knows how to evade the pocket. He knows how to stay on his feet, make good throws just under pressure. And this is a Penn State front seven that doesn't really get to the quarterback that much. Only have 11 sacks, which ranks towards the middle of the pack in all of college football. So they really need to find a way to get pressure on C.J. Stroud early, especially if Sean Clifford isn't active for this game, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on this Penn State defense. So finding a way to get to C.J. Stroud, making him make tough throws with less than 3 seconds after he gets the ball, that's going to be a big point of emphasis in this game.
Definitely. Well, Penn State has a lot of time to rest this weekend, and I'm excited to see how they do the next following weeks. We'll have to wait and see how Penn State football performs the rest of the season when it returns next weekend against Illinois at Beaver Stadium. For Logan, Bourandas, and Juan Mendez, I'm Brooke Steach. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.